We were spared from the winter storm that was supposed to come in last night, so today's excitement is going to be combining the flocks. I took the birds off the soaked feed and switched them back to the dry grains for two reasons. One, my soaked feed got frozen, and two, my hose and my spigot also are frozen, so it's kind of a pain to make it at this point. Alright, here we go. Flock number 1 is out. You guys are looking for your feed. Over there. That way. There you go, Red. It's going to be really interesting to see how the flocks interact. I've been kind of curious about how this process is going to go. So I'm going to go grab the pullets feed and get them fed, and we'll see what happens. Well, one of the barred rocks has come to inspect. She seems a little curious about what's going on here. That black copper moran that just squared off with the barred rock, I think he's a cockerel. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how he'll interact with tails. I think we may have one other cockerel in this batch, but because they're so much smaller than tails, they're not going to challenge him, and I'm hoping there's not going to be any conflict. We'll just have to see. Oh, hello, Miss Red. Tails hasn't even come out for breakfast this morning. I hope he's doing okay. Alright. I've gotten some comments from viewers about the backs of these two girls here being bare still. I've gotten a few suggestions for getting one of those harnesses that you strap on the back of the hen to protect them from the rooster. I've been holding off on implementing that because I thought by now they would have feathered back out, but they haven't, and with the temperatures being so low, I think I need to pick up a couple for them. This is the heated waterer I bought yesterday at the farm store. I was gonna buy one that looks similar to the waterers I have now. It's that same concept where you have the tank above and the pan below. But I happened to run into my dad there at the farm store, and he told me, no, don't get that one. He has several of them. He said they're awful. Get a bowl like this, they're much better. So I got a bowl. It's plugged in running an extension cord from here all the way back to the garage. Leaving the bowl out here like this is not a good practice. It's gonna get buried in snow when the snow comes. So I'm gonna see if I can squeeze the extension cord underneath the greenhouse so the bowl can be inside the greenhouse. It was snowing a little bit earlier, but it's really picking up now, and it's coming in horizontally. You notice that the ewes are lying next to the shelter instead of in the shelter. Reason being is that the wind is coming strong out of the north, so the shelter isn't doing them any good to be in there. Since the shelter is facing north, it's catching all that wind, so it's not really doing them any good to be in the shelter. So I'm gonna see if I can get it rotated for them a little bit. Not gonna work. This thing is frozen to the ground. I suspect with all this hay around it that some of the hay was wet from all the rain we've had and it froze. This thing isn't moving right now. I recruited some muscle here to help me try to move the shelter. You ready, darling?
Yes, please. Let's do this now.
Oh, Daisy. Get off the camera. We rotated at 90 degrees, but there's still a lot of north wind that's coming in at an angle in there. So we're gonna rotate it another 90 degrees so the back of it is completely facing the north. Much better. We were just in the shelter and there's no wind getting through there now, so
it's a good home.
It is much nicer in here now, isn't it, Daisy? Much warmer. There were two downsides for having the shelter this way. Neither of them are really that big of a deal though. One is when I had the shelter facing the other way, I could look out the window from the house and see the sheep in there, know that they're okay, and I could see exactly where they are. With it flipped this way, I won't be able to see them. The other thing is, there's a big gap in the fencing now. This is where the back of the shelter was, closing off this gap. Now they have access to all this out here. And the ground is way too frozen to try to reconfigure the portable electric fencing. I'll never get the spikes into the ground. That's really not a big deal. It's not going to cause any issues. I was really hoping the main flock would have more interest in moving into the greenhouse. Of course, they haven't. We saw a red star and a barred rock go in there this morning. They looked around and checked things out, and then they left. And they've been in here all afternoon. They have not come out. Tails has not come out at all day. So I put a feed bowl in there and I put a bowl of water in there, and they're both eating and drinking in there right now. So they're okay as far as that goes. But since they decided not to come out, they're not ready yet, I went ahead and put up this polyfilm. This is left over from the cattle panel greenhouse. Used my stapler here, and I stapled the polyfilm to the frame of the tractor here on the areas that were not protected by the metal. So this is gonna cut down that northern wind that's coming in this way, that's blasting right through there. The front of the tractor where the door is, and the back where the egg baskets are, they're both still open, so I've not cut off all the ventilation in there. There's still plenty of ventilation. It's just this is gonna really cut down on that wind chill for them. Hello. You can see now Tails is up front since the plastic's up, and he's at the chow bowl right there. The water bowl is right there. The heated waterer seems to be working just fine. There's no ice building up at all, and I touched the bowl and it doesn't feel warm at all, so not really sure how it's working, but it is. The rabbits have their nighttime waterers, and everybody in here is doing just fine. If I remove the tractor from the corral, I think the main flock would be pretty motivated to come into the greenhouse at that point. I think slowly introducing them to this area is fine. They like the tractor. The tractor's been their home now for several months, and as they get used to being in the corral area, it's probably good that they have the familiar tractor. But I don't know, we'll see. We'll just assess things as it goes.